Putting together a term sheet for raising money for your company is a very important issue because you start a trend that leads to how you're going to raise your money and how somebody thinks about you. Very often when you're dealing with an experienced investor or investment group or venture capital group, what happens is they give you their sample term sheet, or they give you a term sheet that says, this is what I want. You have to look at it very carefully to make sure that the terms that they've offered you are fair, and you have to talk to as many people as you can if you haven't done it before to make sure that you can adjust those terms. If you're drafting the term sheet, there are 3 or 4 key elements that you put into it. This is not a sales tool, don't forget. A term sheet is something that says, here's how I want you to put your money in. If you give someone a bad term sheet, it can kill a deal. If you give them a term sheet that just has lots of open issues on it, it can leave those issues open for them to resolve them rather than you. The key issues on a term sheet revolve around whether or not your investors know your business. If they've been involved in your business before, they've got a good idea of who you are. You don't have to put any of the details associated with how your business, what your business is and how it's operated into the term sheet, except for compensation. You need to show as little compensation as possible for the principals, enough for survival. If you do more than that, make sure you've told them that you're going to do that beforehand, because it'll turn off your investors. A lot of investors, when they see compensation that's a big chunk of their money, will just say, I'm not going to do this deal. The second piece to your term sheet is your cap table. People want to see how much stock each person owns. They want to make sure that the key people own enough stock to make it valuable for them. As a part of your cap table, be sure to leave stock for additional people to be added to your team. So that's 10 to 20% for most companies. So when you're putting together the cap table, again, a separate issue, let people know that you plan on bringing in more management and you have stock available for them. It lowers the amount of stock that you have for yourself, but it shows the investors that you know that that's going to happen. The third part to your term sheet is how much valuation you're going to ask. Are you going to ask for a $2 million pre-money valuation? Separate issue on what that means. Or is it going to be lower, or is it going to be higher? Remember, if your beginning valuation is very low, by the time you've raised all the money you need, you're not going to own very much of your company. So you want that valuation to be as high as possible. And the final piece on a term sheet is see if you can find term sheets that your investors have done before so you understand what they need and what they want. And then you can work towards that. Look on the internet for deals they've done, find out about them, and take that into consideration when drafting a document asking them for money. And make sure that when you do your term sheet, that you have other people look at it who know what they're doing, so that when you present it, it's not a turn-off to your investors, but rather a turn-on. If your investors aren't experienced, you have to do a very simple, careful term sheet that really explains to them what your business is. Different from the kind of term sheet you would draw for a very experienced investor or investment group or venture capital group.